knee is down for the Texans, and the clock will wind to 0 here in the fourth quarter. 26-15 the final score. The Texans with the victory over the 49ers here from NRG Stadium. Houston moving to 3-4 overall. The 49ers fall to a record of 5-3 overall.
That's how it sounded as the 49ers lost in Houston today, 26-15. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners fall to 5-3 after this one, and should be noted, as the rest of the NFC West is idle, the 49ers are now out of first place in the NFC West. Seattle, now technically the first place team at 5-2. The Rams also at 5-2. They're idle today. The Niners coming in now at 5-3, a half game back of those two teams, but still owning the tiebreak. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, JD, we said it might be an ugly game. It was for one team. I mean, Houston looked pretty damn good today, man.
Yeah.
475 yards of offense, and we'll talk about the Niners' inability to match up personnel-wise, but Houston on offense got everything they wanted, third down-wise, over the middle, on the outside, with a bit of the run. They didn't even run the ball that effectively in today's game, but C.J. Stroud couldn't be touched.
No, it was total domination in favor of the Houston Texans. They score on 6 of their first 7 possessions. Field goal, touchdown, field goal. The only stop the 49ers got until the game was inside the 5-minute mark in the fourth quarter, with the Texans already up by 2 scores at that point, was the Lenor interception right before halftime after the 49ers showed some life there. So, just a complete and utter domination, and the Texans took it to the 49ers for all 4 quarters.
I mean, what do you chalk this one up to here? And we'll pour through different phases of the game. For me, this sort of simply felt, and I know the first half was atrocious offensively, and we'll run through some of those drives here, but like from a 30,000-foot view, this to me felt like the 49ers, due to both injury throughout the season and injury in this game, just didn't have enough personnel to match up with even the backup wide receivers for the Houston Texans. I mean, the best player on the field for them was C.J. Stroud, and he made the 49ers pay. They couldn't create any pressure, and when they did generate pressure, he either stepped up in the pocket, he stepped out of the way and beat him with his legs, or he threw right into the blitz and made the Niners pay for blitz in a corner. They didn't, as Tim Ryan was talking about on the post-game wrap there, that they didn't have any connectivity between the pass rush and the coverage in the secondary, and it was pretty clear that by the time they got into the late third quarter, the Niners did not have enough defensively to get back in this game.
Yeah, they also couldn't get off the field. There were some third downs where they couldn't. There were a couple of run stuffs early that held the Texans to some field goals, but the Texans were just kind of having their way. I thought they struggled to tackle. Also, there were a couple of key missed tackles that led to some first down pickups, and then, as you mentioned, struggled to get the pass rush. And when they did, it was kind of an easy to get away from rush. And you mentioned Stroud's ability to make those handful of plays to just kind of keep things going. I thought the Texans did do a nice job, staying committed to being able to run the football. I thought it was the effective, maybe not statistically in terms of overall numbers, although they did end up, when you factor Stroud's numbers in there, they ended up, around 140 or 150 something, yards
157 net rushing yards. The Niners just 48 yards on the ground. I mean, part of this, too, JD, is what's incredible here is the Texans almost doubled the Niners up in play calls. 75 plays to the Niners, 44 offensive plays.
And the Texans had double digits first downs before the Niners had a single first down. So it's one thing when you say, long drives, and I thought that first Texans drive was, 16 plays, 57 yards, takes almost 10 minutes off the clock right to begin the game. I mean, that's a tell right there that this was going to be a difficult game for the Niners. But then you look at the Niners offensively, and it's 3 and out. It's 3 and out. It's 3 and out. And the Texans, again, I think they had 10 first downs before the Niners had a single first down in this one. And so it was 16-0 before the 49ers really woke up, although it felt, I don't know, to my eye, it felt like there was, and I think this is the part that's unfortunate given the records of these two teams coming in, but I think it felt like there was a talent gap on the field tonight. It looked like there was a talent gap, and the Texans were the team that came in 2-4, and they looked like the team that had more dudes, even without a couple of their top wide receivers.
Well, defensively, they did have the dudes. It wasn't even the and here's the thing is they made the Niners pay with a variety of different wide receivers. You talked about the run game where they got 62 from Willie Marks. You got 56 on the ground from Nick Chubb. Neither guy carrying it great, though. Woody Marks did go a 5.6 a tote. But check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different Texans receivers caught a pass in this one. 9 different guys. So as much as we said last week on the defensive side of things for the Niners was a team win, this was a team offensive game. I mean, 475 offensive yards. It's clearly the best for Houston this year. 30 of 39 was C.J. Stroud for 318. Has to be the best game he's played all season long. And you pointed out the extended drives is not only could the Niners not get off the field on third down, they couldn't pick up any first downs. To your point, total first downs in the game, 23-12. Houston tops them. When it comes to third downs, the Niners, one of their worst rates of the year, going back to that Arizona game I talked to you about in the pregame show, 3 of 9 on third down were the Niners, 9 of 16. 9 of 16, and at one point they were like 9 of 13. It was 3 and outs on the last 2 drives for Houston, but they had 2-score leads. They didn't really care. Other than that, it was basically all double-digit play drives for them all afternoon long.
Yeah, the game was basically over at the point in which the Texans had a couple of 3 and outs and a couple of punts. I mean, bottom line, and I think Richard Sherman said this on Twitter or X during the game, the 49ers defense can't get off the field and the offense can't stay on the field. And I think, it was today also, I think, when you look at the Texans defense, because I think that's a great point, the 49ers at the line of scrimmage in particular on offense got destroyed today. I mean, the Texans defensive line, it was a complete mismatch for the 49ers offensive line. They were getting penetration. They were just making their presence felt. I thought this was an extremely physical Texans defense today, and I thought it was interesting, listening to a little bit, and we'll hear it, Kyle Shanahan's postgame press conference. He didn't think that he could feel his team out there, and when I take that to mean is physicality. I mean, usually the 49ers, even in games they lose, you can feel them physically.
Yeah.
And today it really wasn't there. There wasn't a lot of force that they played with, and the Texans under DeMeco Ryans, they were flying around, they were hitting people, and now we have to look up at the end of the afternoon in Houston, and the 49ers, the injury toll is continuing to roll on here as it has all season long, unfortunately.
Just a couple more players today. Sam Okenyanu couldn't finish the game. You had D. Winters who went down, and also Jordan Elliott left the game and did not return. We'll have to talk more about those injuries because when D. Winters went down, also it was Curtis Robinson. It was not Nick Martin, who they drafted at linebacker, who we were kind of expecting, hey, maybe we'll get a look at this guy. We saw Luke Gifford out there playing a little bit at linebacker. Robinson was out there, but it is a patchwork right now on defense. They have no pass rush. They're kind of out of DNs at this point. Eder Gross-Matos was already out. Bryce Huff was already out for this game. So you're hoping to get some of these guys back. But if they can't generate pass rush, quarterbacks better than C.J. Stroud are going to carve them up for the remainder of this season if they can't generate any pressure. We'll talk more about this one as the Niners fell 26-15 at the hands of DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans. They officially fall out of first place now as the rest of the NFC West is idle. We'll talk more about some of the mistakes in this one. Some big drops, some missed tackling, as you pointed out, JD, some ineffectiveness on third down. Also, was this Mac Jones' worst performance as a 49er? We'll talk more about that next. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson, 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to call and the number to text. Sky's not falling, but they need some reinforcements on defense as the Niners are banged up. More to come on the Sports Leader.
Our reality is pretty realistic on what we deal with every week. So we knew we had a tough game versus Atlanta, and we felt we had a tough game today. So all those things, I mean, you guys can write about that stuff. But, yeah, it's definitely harder when you lose really good players. But we've had that situation throughout this year, and all I want us to do is play as good as we can play, and then you can deal with whatever. And today we didn't play as good as we could play.
No, they didn't. Niners lost 26-15 to the Houston Texans. They did not play as well as they could have played. In fact, this was as bad as they could have played. This is the thing, JD, is like when you lose players and you're missing good players, yeah, you go, that's frustrating, man. It's tough to get guys in rhythm, working together as a unit in all phases of the game. But as the Niners get a little bit healthier offensively, George Kittle obviously was a factor today in a couple of grabs, including a big touchdown grab on National Tight End Day. Jake Tonjes had a touchdown grab. I did not think Mac Jones played well. I thought the offense didn't help him out, where there was a lot of drops. They keep talking, I heard Tim talking about that one, the post play over the middle with Juwan Jennings, the big sort of splash play where he goes down to the ground and doesn't come away with the catch. But they ended up scoring on that drive. So it wasn't the end of the world to me. He had just as big of a catch down at the 1 yard line. But the interception that Mac threw there when they were trying to drive to make something happen, detrimental. I thought he was high on a number of his throws today, but a couple of them were high, especially on the outside. Even the touchdown to Tonjes, I wasn't sure that was that was directed at Tonjes. I kind of thought maybe that was going to Kittle, and it was an errant throw, and Kittle was behind Tonjes. Tonjes reaches up and snatches it out of the air for the touchdown. Neither here nor there, but I did not think Mac played as sharp as he has played. I don't think the offense picked him up, though.
No, I think there were a couple of drops, as you mentioned. I don't think Mac was great today either. I mean, you go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And I think what we saw from the Texans defensively was were hell-bent on not letting Christian McCaffrey beat them. And so it was going to have to be Mac Jones, and it was going to have to be everybody else along with Mac Jones. And then the defensive line was dominating the 49ers offensive line on top of that. So you look up, and I think things were a little bit more hurried than maybe the 49ers would have wanted it to be, as much as the 49ers were quickly exiting the field to punt the football back to the Texans.
Yeah, I'm with you. It made it real difficult for them to get off the field. And they also just could not put together any sustained drives. When you can't run the ball, we said this was going to have to be a McCaffrey shoulder-the-load kind of game yet again. I mean, I guess that takes away some of the usage, and not through the roof today for McCaffrey.
Yeah.
In terms of the touches, didn't lead the team in like total offensive yards or anything like that. I mean, what did he do through the air? 25 25 on the ground, 43 through the air. So I guess he was your leading yards from scrimmage getter, but nobody stepping out to make a difference in this one. No game-breaking plays. What did you make of the drops of Juwan Jennings? I thought he had a really rough first half, but it's tough to put it on him when everybody had a tough first half. Again, the Niners go 4 plays, 3 yards punt, 3 plays, 7 yards punt, 3 plays, 5 yards punt, and then even the touchdown they scored, they only go 35 yards because of the huge return from Brian Robinson Jr., which nice to have him put the Niners at midfield with a 40-plus yard return, and then a 15-yard face mask puts him in range to get a score there in the final minute of the first half. But this is as bad as a Shanahan's offense has looked with McCaffrey in it.
It is, and I think, you look at, they were set up on that last drive, and they had some life that last drive of the first half to kind of put them into the game, make it a 16-7, then they get the interception. But Lenor doesn't go down, although I'm not really ripping Lenor for not going down. I know a lot of people on social media were. My view of it, Copes, Lenor thought he had a legitimate shot at a pick six.
I think that's kind of where he was going.
When he picked it off. Right. And he was, and by the time he realized it wasn't going to be a touchdown, it was too late to just get down because time was going to run out. And if you do it earlier, it's going to be a kick that might not make it worth it. You're talking between a 50 and a 60-yarder. We know that Eddie Pinheiro's been excellent from 50-plus to this point. But I think that's a hard ask, and I know a lot of 49er fans were really kind of getting on Lenor, it seemed like, on social media, like that was some kind of an unintelligent type play. I think in the moment, that's a really difficult decision to make, especially when your first instinct is, hey, I might be able to make a house call on this. And if he had been able to make a house call on it, maybe we would have been talking about a completely different game, despite the fact that the Niners were being completely dominated at that point. But, yeah, I thought today it was just going back to the offense. You lose the line of scrimmage, and it makes the weapons that you do have, not look quite as good. And then I think you also, today was one of those days, and it can kind of happen in any week because the 49ers have so many players out.
Sure.
But today was one of those days where you're looking around the field, Copes, and you're thinking, man, the Niners just, you love Juwan Jennings and you love, some of the guys that they have, but they just don't have. Today was a day where it looked like, from a talent standpoint, they didn't have enough. And I think the Texans, despite their record, in particular defensively, have a lot of talent. And then you flip it back to the other side of the football, and as maligned as C.J. Stroud has been, and rightfully so, really since his rookie year, when you don't get pressure, it's very comfortable for him, and he got very comfortable and looked like rookie C.J. Stroud today, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, this is one of the first games that I looked at and I thought, based on the way it ended, based on the play of Mac in this game, and I don't think this changes it completely, I did find myself wondering where they would be in this game if Brock Purdy were playing. I did think that they got after Mac Jones. They applied a lot of pressure to him. They hit him. He was banged up. He was rattled, I thought, a couple of different times, especially in the second half and late in the game where he got dropped pretty hard on a play where he got rolled up into Trent Williams. I was grateful that Trent didn't hurt his ankle or his knee on that because he had kind of gotten up slow at one point too. But Mac he's taken a beating. He's been ragdolled around. I mean, we talk about C.J. Beathard being a dude who could take a beating back there. Mac Jones is a tough dude, and he's taken a lot of hits this year. But I did find myself wondering, is this a game that might have been better off? Not better off. Would you have been a little bit better today had you had Brock Purdy? I did find myself questioning that.
Yeah, and I think you can look at Mac, and it's, 6 games now for Mac Jones out of the 8 that he started, and I think you can make the case that, he wasn't great in the game against Arizona. He struggled, obviously, in the game against Tampa that they lost, and then today. And so of the 6 games, I think you could almost go through the 6 overall and say, yeah, there's been 3 where he's been really good, and I think there's been 3 where he's been kind of ordinary or even mediocre. I don't think he's been colossally bad in any of the 3 games that he hasn't played well, and the 49ers losing a couple of them. They were able to sneak out that Cardinals game to earn a win going back to the home opener. But I just, it's the life of having a backup quarterback, and I'm kind of with you. We don't know how Brock Purdy would have played, especially a compromised physically Purdy
I'm thinking
against that defense. But the mobility is definitely something that Brock has that Mac Jones does not. And I think you're playing with him. As much as we like to talk about how well Mac has played, I still, and maybe you look at it differently, I still look at Mac Jones as performing really well for a backup quarterback.
Sure.
Not necessarily, performing great as if he was somebody that you were counting on to be your starting quarterback week in, week out. You'll still take it 4-2 from a backup quarterback. That's excellent in terms of production and the ability to win. But you have to believe that there's a level that the 49ers offense is missing with Mac Jones being in there consistently, as opposed to having Brock Purdy, especially if Brock Purdy is healthier, which for now he isn't. We've seen the ceiling of what Brock Purdy can do in his career, and it's higher than what we've seen Mac Jones be able to do in his.
808 KNBR 415-808-5627 is the number to call and the number to text. The Niners fall 25 to it's 26-15 was the finals. The Niners got the 2-point conversion to cut it to 8 at one point before it becomes a 2-score game yet again. Let's get you the difference maker of the game, sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com. I'll say the difference maker in this game was the inability to find a pass rush for the 49ers. And we talked about this after Fred Warner went down, after Nick Bosa went down, but specifically now after Bryce Huff is out, and he played really well in the absence of Nick Bosa. Okenyanu goes down. They could not generate pressure. A couple of times they sent blitzes. Upton Stout had a wide-open sack, seemingly in the backfield. C.J. Stroud stepped right by it and then made the Niners pay. A couple of times thrown right into the blitz and making the secondary pay as Tim Ryan would tell you, they weren't all on a string. They weren't on one string. They're working together in terms of the coverage with the rush. I think that the clean pocket and the offensive line for Houston that looked porous last week, I mean, that shows you how bad the Niners were today in the pass rushes. I think Seattle's a really good defense, but they made the offensive line of Houston on Monday night look like a high school offensive line effectively. They couldn't get anything going. And today, 475 yards, 318 come through the air.
Incredible, and it really was surprising. I would add also the defensive line as a difference maker for the Texans against the 49ers offensive line. Really, it's the trenches for me both ways. The 49ers lost the battle there, and it led to them losing the battle overall on the scoreboard in what was a game that ends 26-15, but truly wasn't as close as that score would indicate.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners fall to the Houston Texans 26-15. They are now 5-3 on the season. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. If you want to check in on this game, how concerned are you about the depth on defense now? Because they've got virtually no regulars out there. I mean, at one point, even Alfred Collins went down with an injury. He ended up coming back into the game. We'll talk more about how some of these injuries affected the 49ers, as well as the inefficiency on offense. We got plenty more to come. Your thoughts, your calls, your texts. Tim, we'll get to you. I see you here in San Francisco. We'll get to your calls at 808 KNBR when we come on back. The Niners are 5-3 out of first place for the first time this year, only here on the Sports Leader.
It was really just I was trying to score. I should have slid. I wasn't aware how much time was left on the clock, but I just seen, the end zone, and I was trying to score, put us in a good position, to be able to win the game.
That was Demo Lenor, an interception for the 49ers right before the end of the first half. By the way, that was the only drive of the first half that did not net points for the Houston Texans. They went field goal, touchdown, field goal, and then 2 plays, 2 yards before that interception that ended the first half. Don't forget, they had absolutely dominated. I mean, you mentioned the 16-play drive to start the game for Houston, JD. That's their longest drive of the season, by the way, 16 plays. It took 9:39 off the clock. At one point, and I have to go back and look exactly at where they finished, but at one point, it was like 19 or 18 minutes to like 1 for the Houston Texans over the Niners. The way it finished for them in terms of times of possession, 41-22 to 18-38, which speaks to the 70-plus plays to the 44 that the 49ers ran in today's game. Now, Demo, they're talking about he was trying to find the end zone potentially there and trying to take it back for a pick six, and the Niners would get the ball back. That would have been an electric end to the first half, considering the touchdown they get to Kittle and then the interception, which, by the way, snaps a nearly 14 and a half games without an interception and 496 passing attempts against the Niner defense between interceptions. So going back to Week 11 last year, maybe it wasn't a smart play. Where he picked it off was at the 44-yard line of the 49ers. So you're not in field goal range. I saw Cam Inman said maybe you go for a Hail Mac at that point if he goes down for a slide. But, he said he wasn't aware of how much time's on the clock when he intercepts it. I think I can't imagine he didn't do the right thing there. I mean, you got to try to make a push, and it looked for a minute like he had a chance to take it to the house.
Yeah, initially I think that was the thought, and that it was attainable to be able to get to the house. Again, I know a lot of people kind of coming down his road for that. But, yeah, I mean, it would have been game on if you're able to make a house call on that. Hell, even if you are able to get out of bounds or down to a point where there's time on the clock and you can attempt a long field goal, because, frankly, the 49ers, Copes, they were fortunate in a sense that they weren't down more than 16-7 at that point. I mean, you look at the Texans going down and field goals on their first 2 drives, then they get the touchdown after C.J. Stroud hit the long 44-yarder to Knoll on Malik Mustafa that was part of that 10-play 82-yard drive for the Texans. But it really could have been 21, 24, 28-0, honestly, in the worst case, had the Niner defense not been able to come up with a couple of run stuffs and hold the Texans to some of those field goals. But, yeah, and maybe this is a credit to the 49ers because they did, I think, battle. Like, I thought their competitiveness was there. I just think, frankly, today was one of those games, and you wouldn't necessarily expect it against a team like the Texans because of their record at 2-4 coming into this one. But I thought the 49ers, and maybe this is the most disheartening part of the whole afternoon, they looked overmatched to me on both sides.
In all phases.
And I think that's the thing. Despite being 5-3, and having a very winnable game next week against the Giants in New York and Jersey. So they're going to have to just continue to try and fight and scratch through this thing. But to look against a Texans team that we've seen struggle against other divisional opponents in the 49ers division, and then to see the 49ers who have been playing better, even shorthanded, than most would expect. It was a little bit sobering, I think, maybe, to see the Niners look so bad today.
Let's go out to the phone lines. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. The Niners fall to the Houston Texans 26-15 the final, and really, as JD put it, didn't look good in any phase of the game. The score is not even really indicative of how poorly they played. It's tough.
The special teams kept them in it.
Yeah,
special teams was probably their best phase today.
It's probably the best play of the day. The return from Brian Robinson Jr. I mean, I would venture to say that even though it was only 16-0, it's a 2-score game at that point still. After 4 drives for Houston, the Niners hadn't done anything with their first 3 drives. I never really felt like the defense was keeping them in it. I thought Houston was ineffective when they got close to the red zone. I never really thought the Niners got off and held them. It's tough to say that when their drives go 16, 9, 10, 11, 12, 10. You're not really getting off the field there or holding them. You're kind of bending, not breaking, and then eventually they hit you with the backbreaker. Let's go to Tim. Tim is in San Francisco. Let's talk some Niners after the loss. Tim, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to say something about Mac Jones. I wonder if I can rant and rave here for a minute if you will allow me. I'll try not to take up too much time.
Okay.
77 years old, native San Franciscan. Went to Kezar Stadium, rain, snow, sun, up and down, bad and good. A lifetime 49er fan. Mac Jones is going to be either cut or sat on the bench. He has as much mobility as the Statue of Liberty. It is time to put Brock Purdy on ice for the rest of the year, put in Adrian Martinez, and now pick up another quarterback. Are you ready for this one? Work out Colin Kaepernick, assuming he wants to play for the 49ers again. Final thought. Could we please stop this adoration of Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh as offensive and defensive geniuses? The first three series for the 49ers, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. The first three series for the Houston Texans, long drive, scores on all three. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Appreciate the call, Tim. I would say I don't agree with anything Tim said. With respect to Tim, who's been watching football for a long time, I don't agree with anything that he said. He's right. Mac Jones doesn't have great mobility. Also, I'm not sure why you would just put Brock Purdy on ice for the rest of the year. You have a winning record right now. You're undefeated in division. You're still trending towards being a playoff team. You get Brock back as your starting quarterback, you may very well still be a playoff team. I don't understand that logic at all. Sit down, bench Mac Jones. He's 4-1 coming into this game as a starter. He's now 4-2 as a starter for the Niners. He didn't play well today. Didn't play great last week, but Christian McCaffrey carried you. You don't win. You're not 5-3 without Mac Jones. I mean, if you go to an average backup from around the league, JD, or if you had, I mean, look at what the Bengals did. You know what I mean? They had Jake Browning playing, and they might have a completely different season going had they made a trade or had a better backup for Joe Burrow, or like Joe Flacco prior to the injury. They're still alive for sure, even though they lost today's game. I don't understand the logic in saying shut down Brock. I don't think they're trending that way. And I'll leave the genius talk to you if you want on the Saleh Shanahan. I will never understand after a loss destroying the coaching staff and saying they're not good. I didn't hear you calling last week, Tim, after the Sunday Night Football performance or any of the previous 5 wins.
Saleh's been excellent. And the one thing I will say, and I did see a little bit of this in some of the friend group chats, right, among 49er fans, and you see it on social media, the question of wasn't this team supposed to be led by their offense? And I think that's more a point for down the line, maybe once they get a couple of wide receivers back, Ricky Pearsall to be sure, maybe Brandon Ayuk, once you get Brock Purdy back. But I think the one thing that is disappointing, and look, today it was both the offense and the defense, right? But I think that the belief was, hey, the 49ers, because the defense is so depleted right now because of injuries, they're going to have to lean on their offense, and they're going to have to really be much more of an offensive-oriented football team. And it just hasn't come to fruition. So I think there is a sense of the fan base that says, damn it, like today's the day. You got to be buttoned up and ready to roll and go make plays. The problem is, and it gets back to them being overmatched, I think physically, especially at the line of scrimmage, and that leads to everything kind of being an all systems fail. But I do think that's the one thing, when you look at the defense, not today, but throughout the course of the season, I think for the most part has performed at a higher level and beyond expectations. Compared to the offense, although the offense has played well enough for them to win these games in key moments, and they've had some big time performances. Mac in New Orleans, you look at Mac in L.A. against the Rams, and some of the individual performances from Christian McCaffrey a week ago, from Kendrick Bourne in the game against the Rams. So they've had some individual performances and looked pretty good offensively in a lot of these games. But I think there's this belief of, well, Kyle's the offense, and anybody, it's sort of the thing that your strength can be your greatest weakness. It's that belief that, well, Kyle can do it with anybody. Well, the reality is Kyle can do it with anybody some of the time, but nobody's going to be able to do it with a talent gap every single freaking week in the National Football League. And the bigger takeaway for me today, again, is, and we talked about this a lot a couple of weeks ago after the 49ers got beat in Tampa. I feel like moving forward, the 49ers week to week, it's not so much about the opponent as it is about the matchup. Like, I can see them beating teams that maybe we think it's going to be tough for them to hang with, but I also think because of where they are talent-wise on their roster, any game they can win But any game they can lose, and that's why I think I was a little bit more worried than you and Krug about this game today, because I just don't look at the record of any team right now and think, because this is not a 5-2 talent level team as it's currently constituted. They can perform to that and beat teams, but anybody can really beat. You're going to have to play well or you can get beat by anybody. And I feel like that now, as the Niners sit here with 9 games to go, it doesn't mean they're any more or less likely to win next week or the week after that or the week after that. But you can't be counting any game because you beat Atlanta doesn't mean you're going to walk into Houston and dominate a Texans team that's as good physically, especially at the line of scrimmage as they can be and were today.
808 KNBR 415-808-5627 is the number to call and to text. Rocky and Vallejo, John in South City. I see you guys waiting. We're going to get to your calls as soon as we come back. Is this still a playoff team? 49er fans, do you view this as a playoff team? I mean, we were all feeling good after Sunday Night Football, beating the high-octane offense. Are they high-octane, by the way, the Falcons, after what they did today and getting absolutely run by the Miami Dolphins? They beat up on the Falcons, who I didn't think were a very good team, and now they're staring up at a couple of teams in their division by a half game. 808 KNBR Niner fans, are they still a playoff team right now at 5-3? More of your thoughts, your calls, your texts next. Niners fall to the Houston Texans 26-15 on the Sports Leader.
in this league, it's everybody's good. It's the NFL, and everybody has a jersey for a reason, and everybody's on the team for a reason. And they believe they can help us win football games. So for us, it's obviously it sucks losing guys. Just transparently, you never want to lose guys. It's especially poor guys, but let alone anybody. But it is a next man up mentality, and when that stuff happens, you have to be really detailed and have to eliminate all of the other self-inflicted wounds.
I was 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey there. That audio courtesy of NBC Sports Bay Area. Just talking about trying to get things going, man. They asked George Kittle, by the way, after the game, if he thought that they needed to make a trade to try to support and help some of this defense, and he said, would you guys have asked me that, or nobody asked me that last week after we beat Atlanta? He said defense played pretty well. Nobody asked me that last week. And he did admit, or did talk about the injuries today, did make it difficult. I mean, you're down to like some third-string guys now. I mean, Curtis Robinson is in there after D. Winters goes down, and Robinson had to step in for Bethune a bit last week, and Bethune is in there for Fred Warner. I mean, we really are down to not just very young players and guys without a lot of experience, but you're down to like some third-round and late-round pick guys, not third-round, third-level guys even, in some of these positions due to these injuries. Just a reaction from you on that, JD, before the injury report here?
Yeah, I think it's tough because you could also make the case, and we talked about this with Matt Mayoko on the pregame. It seems like the only area in which the 49ers would be willing to look to make a move is for a pass rusher.
Yeah.
And the question, though, I think they have to ask themselves is, with every loss here, and it's the same thing with every win, but with if this team, in taking a loss today, my initial thought is, that we talked about it after the Tampa game when Fred Warner went down, they're less likely to make a move, not more. Whereas on the surface, you look at, well, this team lost, they need more reinforcements, you have to go get somebody, I do not see the 49ers, Copes, looking to make a move somewhat out of desperation, even if it is a lesser move where you're not going to be giving up a ton of draft capital, or you're going to be acquiring somebody that's maybe a lesser name player but could fit into the future plans beyond just the remainder of this year. But I sort of look at it, they are in a unique position because on the surface you think this team desperately needs reinforcements at a bunch of positions potentially. They don't really at this stage, it doesn't appear that they're willing to go do that. But at the same time, with each game that they lose, maybe they also become more inclined to just kind of ride it out with what they have.
Sure.
And, that has the potential, if they continue to lose players, to be even more problematic.
Well, they continue to lose, then your guy Tim, who called earlier, might get exactly what he wants, dude. Maybe they'll sit Purdy down for the year, sign Kaepernick.
I don't think they're going to do that.
They'll bench Matt Jones. They'll put Purdy on season-ending IR, and then for some reason, he wanted to sign Colin Kaepernick. It's only been 10 years since he was below average. The last time he played quarterback in the NFL. Let's get you the injury report for today's game, sponsored by Happus Law. They'll fight to make it right. Visit HappusLaw.com. More injuries rearing their ugly heads today for the 49ers. Alfred Collins left the game early in the second quarter after a big catch by Jalen Knoll. A left arm injury, went to the blue tent. He did return in that same quarter. Upton Stout got shaken up at one point. He returned to the game as well. Jordan Elliott walked off pretty slowly, with trainers are saying it was an ankle. He did not return to the game. D. Winter was being evaluated for a knee injury. He left early in the second half. He did not return. Sam Okenyanu.
He came back. And then left
again.
Came back and then left again.
And did not return, yeah. And then Sam Okenyanu, a lower leg injury, was walked off the field, but then was carted from the sideline to the locker room. He was ruled out and did not return. Did Connor Colby leave the game with an injury?
I didn't have Colby on my list. Your list, and I was going through mine as you were reading yours. I had those as I had all the ones you listed.
Yeah,
as the
yeah.
Ones
Well, I saw at one point Nick Sakel was in at left guard, and they said it on the broadcast. I heard Tim Ryan or somebody, or it might have been Justin Allegri say that the Nick Sakel had stepped in at left guard for Connor Colby. So I don't know if he left with an injury or if he got banged up for a minute or what had happened. But I didn't hear Kyle after the game on that either. So we'll try to get more info on that.
The one good news I know, a bit of potential good news, although you never know. And look, every week the Niners, you get to Monday or Tuesday
we'll wake
or
up
even
tomorrow.
Wednesday when they go back to. You go back to practice, and there's somebody that wasn't listed and not on your list, not on my list, not on Kyle's list when he met with the media in Houston. But Kyle did say that he thought, at least initially, that none of the injuries, including a couple of the ankle injuries, they were not high ankle sprains, and that none of the injuries, at least at this point, he believed were going to be of the longer-term variety, like season enders.
He didn't think that, no, but that, I mean, that's not really the point at this
We've
juncture.
heard that before.
It's also not really the point at this juncture, right? I mean, like, Bryce Huff is not a season ender, but the absence was felt today for sure. Let's go back out to the phone lines at 808 KNBR. Rocky's in Vallejo. Rocky, you're on the Sports Leader. Where are you with the Niners, man?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts. Number one, I want to say this. Colt McKivitz had his worst game possibly of his career.
He did not look good.
Destroyed.
Yeah.
He didn't look good today. Okay, he has problems with the, really fast, athletic pass rushers, and Will McDonald destroyed him. Will Anderson, excuse me. Anyway, moving forward to the defense, obviously lack of pass rush. Bryce Huff, you guys highlighted it. We definitely missed him. And what JD's saying is, maybe they shouldn't make a trade. I completely disagree with JD on this point. You still have to field a team. And the reason Sam O got hurt, one of the reasons why he got hurt is he had to play so many plays. There's not enough defensive ends out there. So you're going to have to field a team regardless, because this is still a long season. So they're going to have to make a trade. They're going to have to give up a 5th or 6th round to get some guys that can rush the passer. And this guy Gibson, that they call up from the practice squad, he's their best pass rusher, that they have now outside Sam O. And I was watching him. He had a really bad game. He couldn't really rush the pressure. I think he only got one pressure, and he's horrible against the run. So we got to put him back to the practice squad. They have to get a couple of bodies, some decent professional pass rushers. Otherwise, the rest of the guys are going to keep getting hurt if you don't, make some trades.
Yeah.
Also, they also need to look at another safety because Mustafa's you can see Mustafa's coming together. He didn't have a training camp, but he's getting better and better. And Jair Brown, he makes some splash plays here and there.
Yeah.
But overall, he's too slow. They need a fast safety out there. That's a big problem they have right now.
I'm with you. Appreciate the call, Rocky. Thanks so much, man. Yeah, last couple of weeks, I think Jair Brown has looked pretty good and sort of quieted some of those critics, and maybe the competition has helped in some guys coming back and some of the young players playing well in the secondary. I would agree to an extent. The thing that Kyle said this week when Matt Mayoko asked him, we talked to Matt about it before the game, was he said, if they're going to get somebody, they don't want it to be somebody who's here as a rental. And I don't think, because they're not poised to be like a Super Bowl contending defense or team right now, and we've seen what it looks like at the deadline when they are, that John Lynch will go and add. I mean, he went out and he added Emmanuel Sanders because they needed a receiver that could stretch the field a bit. They needed help. So he added Emmanuel Sanders. They needed a more pass rush and D lineman. A couple of years ago, he went out and he added Chase Young. He's done this several times, and he's been in on other players at the deadline. The issue now, and this is the point that Rocky was making, is you got to field a team. But unless you're a contender, you don't want to mortgage your future for trying to win right now, unless you really are going to get a player who's under contract for next season. That's something that would be kind of a big deal, to be able to give up a pick and have somebody that can help you beyond this year. I would more err on the side of them grabbing players off practice squads, maybe picking up a couple of aging vets if they needed to, for pieces that wouldn't cost you much of anything. Maybe somebody you're familiar with already. Hell, Trevis Gibson was cut this week, signed to the practice squad, and elevated again immediately because they needed more bodies out there. You will at some point get some of these guys back. Either Gross-Matos, you figure, is going to come back at some point. And again, Kyle said a lot of this doesn't appear to be season-ending in terms of some of these, but I don't anticipate they're going to be in the trade market for something that's just going to help plug a hole right now, because that doesn't necessarily help you. They need to either develop or get a bigger piece that will help beyond this season, because I think the way we're looking at it, maybe even the way they're looking at it, is this season is not the end-all, be-all. This is like square one for what the Rams did to rebuild their defense. It's what they're trying to do with Saleh here. So I actually don't think there's a lot of reinforcements coming at the trade deadline, JD.
Yeah, not via the trade. I think reinforcements could be coming in terms of maybe you look to sign somebody off of another team's practice squad, or maybe you look at some street free agents, some guys that don't currently have jobs to bring in, because to the caller's point, I mean, the part about needing to field a team and needing to have bodies at these positions, that is 100% true. It doesn't mean, though, that you're going to look to go bring in somebody that's going to be at the top of your depth chart, because that would prove to be too costly. And again, going back to our conversation with Mayoko from before the game, it really does sound like the only position they're even considering it at is a pass rusher position. It's not like they're looking for, and maybe if there's enough injuries, you got to add a linebacker, you got to add a DB, but I think they're content right now with the safeties, and Jair Brown did get beat on that Hutchinson touchdown that put the Niners down 23-7. Mustafa had help over the top, but Hutchinson was working on that 30-yarder to against Jair Brown. So he also does make some plays, make some hits, and steps up in the run game and the like. But I think the Niners are vulnerable to the pass at the safety spot over the top in a way that they really don't want to be. But I also think whether it's corner or safety, they've got a bunch of young players that they like and want to see grow together, to where I don't look at them going and trying to bring in some kind of a veteran that's going to take snaps away in what may in some ways prove to be, even though the Niners have a winning record, kind of a developmental year for a lot of their young players that they've brought in more recently.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners fall to the Houston Texans today, 26-15. We'll get more of your calls. John and Watchdog, I see you waiting on the line, plus Mort and Mert. We'll get to your calls. When we come on back, are the Niners still a playoff team? Do you view them as a playoff team in your mind? Or are they the third best team in the NFC West? We'll talk more about that next. Adam Copeland, JD with you till about 3:05, 3:10 today, only here on The Sports Leader.
We don't focus on a lot of the stuff that the outside world focuses on, because you don't have time to. We come in tomorrow and we watch the tape and then we're on to the next week. We don't have all week to focus on what just happened, and so if we want to be the team we want to be, it's about urgency and diligence every single day in the meeting room, the practice field, taking care of your body, whatever it is to get to Sunday ready to go.
Christian McCaffrey. Talking about getting ready. We don't care about what you guys think. We don't care about what you guys talk about. We come back, we get ready to go. And that's what they'll have to do. Check the tape. And then I don't know if this is a flush it type of game. I think there are things you've got to take away from this one and learn from. One thing that stands out to me, and we'll go out to the phone lines and talk about this, is still just one game where they have run the ball effectively. One game. It was last week against Atlanta. I mean, they didn't do it at all today. 8 carries for 25 for McCaffrey. Show me a game where McCaffrey runs the ball less than 10 times, plays the whole game in his career, and the team wins. I mean, that's an alarming note.
It is, and 11 total touches, and they kind of forced the Niners out of really getting the ball to McCaffrey. I thought the Texans did. And what do we see when McCaffrey is ineffective or not on the football field? We see the 49ers offense completely be ineffective, and so that I think is also a little bit of an alarming thing here moving forward. They've gotten enough in terms of being able to keep him involved in the offense touch-wise to be able to allow for them to still do other things. Today, they really couldn't do anything until they were down big.
This must be how Falcons fans felt on Sunday night after Bijan didn't do anything against the Niner offense after the huge performance he had, and we were like, yeah, McCaffrey still got it. And then here come the Houston Texans shutting down McCaffrey. Let's go out to the phone lines here. John is in South City. John, tough loss today for the Niners, man. You still think they're a playoff team? You're on the sports leader.
Hey, what's up, Copeland, and what's up, Dickerson?
What's up, bro?
I think they are a playoff team. Right now you're 3-0 in the division. That's number one. That's the good news. But today I think the offensive line did not play well today. That's what happened today, man.
We still got you there?
Are you still there?
We got you. Yeah, sorry. I lost you for a minute. I was talking to Tim. What was the last thing you said there?
I think if they can be a playoff team, number one is you might need to get an edge rusher.
Yeah.
And possibly maybe a linebacker too, as well. And then, but I thought, Mustafas is playing much better. I think he's playing much better, Copes and Mr. Dickerson. I think they're both. Mustafas got better. I know he didn't get enough rest during preseason. You know, that's the thing. But I'm not trying to be negative. I'm trying to stay positive, okay?
Okay.
Well, look, here's the thing. Tough loss. We're moving on. We're on to the New York Giants. That's all I got. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, John. Thanks so much, dude. It's interesting that people go, yeah, I'm okay with being positive and keeping a positive mindset about it, but you got to be logical about it, too. You and I, JD, you had a great line last week on the postgame show where you said, we're running out of games on the schedule that look like they should win games. Like, you look at it and you go, if you're playing the schedule game, you go, yeah, they should win that one. They should win that one. They could lose that one, but they should win that one.
Tennessee at home is the only one.
Tennessee at home is the only one. Like, even the Bears might be more problematic than they were previously. I mean, they gave the Ravens a little bit today, and Caleb Williams is playing a little bit better. I still don't think he's all that special, but they've put some stuff together, and Ben Johnson has got the offense working a little differently, and DeAndre Swift. Next week, again, coming off a game like this doesn't feel great. It's another East Coast swing. And you got to come home first, and you're going back out to New York to take on Jackson Dart and the no Cam Scatterboo New York Giants. I still feel like that's a game the Niners should win, even now especially now that Scatterboo's out. But, I mean, that's a team that's been able to move the ball a little bit better as of late. So how will the defense respond? Can they create a pass rush? I like the fact that it's Saleh against a rookie quarterback. That's kind of where I'll hang my hat, is I like that matchup. I like, to your point from earlier, it's a matchup week-by-week situation. It's not, like I said to you before, it doesn't feel like an 8-game season so far. It feels like it's been 8 individual seasons, game by game, based on personnel to this point, JD.
Absolutely, and I think that's a game they can win as a bounce back in New York. I think Scatterboo being out and the way that the Giants have lost the last 2 games. Remember, when we were going through that was when the Giants had a huge lead at Denver that they ultimately lost in the fourth quarter and lost the game, and then today they get beat by the Eagles and they lose Scatterboo. So the Giants look like they had a little something cooking in that moment if they had gotten that win in Denver. Now you lose that game, you lose another game, you lose Scatterboo on top of it, and I think the Giants now are suddenly primed to really free fall again when it looked like maybe they had some action a week ago right around this time or a little bit later in the afternoon when I was hopping on with you guys from Levi's. So all of that being said, though, Copes, I could still see the Niners losing to the Giants next week. It's that fragile to me. But But, and this was the point, because Todd Husak was coming down my road for I think thinking I was being a little too doom and gloom on it.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think they can win a lot of these games too, just because I think they could lose 8 of the 9 games that they have left. I don't think they're going to lose them all. I also think they can probably win 7 or 8 of the remaining 9 games left on the schedule. The reality is, as they sit at 5-3, can they get 5 of them? That's the thing. If you can split it to where, you've got, let's say, 8 games left that you think you can win. If you can win, 5 of those basically, then you're going to be a playoff team probably with 10 wins. I believe this team can still be a playoff team, to answer your question of the afternoon. You said, or are they the 3rd best team in the NFC West?
Could be both. Both.
They might be both. Shout out Ralph Barbieri. Both things can be equally true.
We will. Let's go out to Watchdog in San Francisco. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. One of the great KNBR callers. Watchdog, you're on the Sports Leader. What up, dude?
What's up, guys? Man, I think the Niners are still in it due to them having that weaker schedule. Some of the games may not be as winnable when you look at the schedule, but I think we'll be right there in a lot of the games. Especially when you get Ayuk back. Ayuk's a great blocker. I think the run game only gets that much better when you bring Brandon Ayuk out there. He blocks like no other receiver on the team. Maybe Juwan Jennings. He's a good blocker too, but I would say Ayuk's a very, very good blocker, and he's going to be coming back pretty soon. I had one point, Adam, that I want to pick with you is about Colin Kaepernick, because, I'm a black man from San Francisco, and police brutality is a real thing to me, and he was kneeling in protest of police brutality prior to the George Floyd killing.
Agreed. Yeah, we know.
So,
Dude, he was.
Let me go over the data. Colin Kaepernick had Thomas Sula as a head coach, and then he had Chip Kelly, and so he had these bad coaches. His last season with the Niners, his top receiver was Jeremy Curley, and he was coming off a shoulder surgery that year, and he still had 14 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. So when you're saying like he's playing below average, I don't think you're keeping it real on what the real issue was of why he's not in the NFL anymore and how he got fired.
That's not. Hold on, hold on, Watchdog. Hold on, bro. Hold on. You're not going to come down my road and say I don't like that. I supported all of that. I still own it. It's the only jersey I own is a Colin Kaepernick jersey. I didn't dispute anything. He definitely, the league had caught up to him a little bit. He did have a terrible coordinator. He did have terrible weapons around him. The team was bad, which is why they had to get that's why. Well, they had to go find Kyle Shanahan after a bad stretch of football. I do think he played below average. I think a lot of guys do when they have bad coaching and bad systems around them. I also think he got blackballed from the league for what he did and what he stood for or knelt for. So I'm not disputing any of that. I was disputing the caller saying you should bench Brock for the remainder of the year, bench Mac Jones, and sign Colin Kaepernick. I said, what does that have to do with anything? I think if Kaepernick had been signed to a team, he had a very good opportunity to earn back another starting job. I thought he had elite talent. He changed the way you played quarterback in the NFL at one point. He could throw it and he could run it. He was the biggest dude back there. I mean, it took the Niners to a Super Bowl. I'm not disputing any of that. I made one throwaway comment saying he was below average the last time he played. I'm not saying there was no other context there, but this had nothing to do with the taking the knee, Watchdog.
He was not below average, though.
Okay, then we just all right. So then I whatever. It was a throwaway line. Why are we talking Kaepernick?
Well, he had gotten. Yeah, and look, he had gotten better when he started playing in the Chip Kelly year in 2016. He had played well enough to where he should have been on an NFL team.
I think he got crapped on way harder. I just said below. I just said below average, but it was a throwaway.
No, I get it. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said at all.
Or him. I'm not even disagreeing with him. Yeah.
And we both know the reason why he didn't get that opportunity, and you said it. He got blackballed by the league for what he stood for. And that's 100% true. That's why he didn't get the shot. despite, and this is where I will say, regardless of whether you think the level he was at a capable level to be in an NFL training camp at a minimum as a backup competing for a job.
He should have remained in the league.
He was playing at that level at the end of 2016.
Agreed.
And he never got another opportunity because of the other stuff.
Dude, agreed. I'm with all of it. I'm just like, dude, I watched, I promise you, I'm not crapping on Kaepernick. I loved the Kaepernick era. I supported what he knelt and stood for and all of that. Like, I'm a black man too, brother. Like, I was not crapping on Colin Kaepernick. I was crapping on Tim, the caller, who said they should bench Brock and sign Kaepernick. I was like, what are we talking about? Let's take a break. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. I do have to tell you, by the way, who the player of the game is. The player of the game is sponsored by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. I got to go with C.J. Stroud. The performance he put together today is why Houston, at least offensively, put up one of their best offensive performances of the season. 26 points. They didn't find the end zone every time they were down there, but he put together sustained drives of 16, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 10 plays to a point of over 300 yards passing, 30 of 39, 318, 2 touchdowns, and also did a little bit with his legs. Got 30 on 7 carries with his legs. So he's going to be our player of the game. We'll take a quick break. When we come on back, we'll go out to Jake and Eric, who are waiting on the phone lines. Are the Niners still a playoff team? 808 KNBR. Or we can talk Kaepernick on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Feel like we prepare a certain way for the opening drives, and really like the way we do it here. And I've been in that situation far too many times where it just hasn't gotten going, and today just wasn't our day. So at the end of the day, you got 30 more minutes to play. and did okay, but definitely a lot to clean up and just got to be more on our P's and Q's.
Yeah, Niners had nothing until the final minute of the end of the first half there. They were down 16-0, and then they get a 4-play drive after a long kick return. Takes them back to midfield from Brian Robinson Jr., and then shortly thereafter, the way the play ends is a 15-yard face mask penalty moves them upfield, and they put together a short little 4-play, 35-yard drive into the end zone to George Kittle on National Tight End Day. 4 plays, 35 yards, made it 16-7. So they did get a little going before the half. Ultimately, not enough as the Niners fall today to 5-3 after a 26-15 loss to the Houston Texans. Let's go to Jake. Jake is in Ames, Iowa. What's up, Jake? You're on the Sports Leader.
What's up, fellas?
What's up,
How you
bro?
doing, fellas? How you doing?
Good, man.
Hey.
Good.
I think we should call up Steve Bono and Elvis Gerbach, too, and see if they're ever...
Dude, yeah, I know. I'm like, what?
Kidding.
Come on, man.
I love Cap, too.
Yeah.
I did.
Same. I don't know.
Anyway, the 49ers are still in it. The reason they're in it, they beat Seattle, the Rams on the road. They're still undefeated there in the division.
Yep.
They've got 2 of their 3 losses are AFC losses, so you kind of just have to go for it.
Yep.
I mean, I get it. You sit tight, but you got McCaffrey and Kittle, and these guys getting up in years. I mean, another year of wear and tear on them, too, is another year, you got a chance to win. So I think they need to go get some D-line help, and I'm not against giving up 4th, 5th-round pick. I don't know how much difference that's going to make for them in the draft next year. I mean, I think next year's draft will be about the offensive line. And then with the Purdy Jones situation, I think you got – if Ron can go next week, you got to see if he can do it. You put him out there for 2 games and see, and then you go back to Mac. Or, I mean, if Mac plays these next 2 games, knowing they win, I mean, at some point you just got to make it Mac's season.
Yeah,
So
I'm kind of with you.
I think I don't know. I think these next 2 weeks with the Giants and Rams are huge. Really big.
Totally agree. 2 NFC opponents. You bring up a good point about the loss being to 2 AFC teams. Now, they are common opponents for your division, which could be a factor. But if you if you keep winning against your division, what difference does it make if you own the tiebreak outright?
This NFC is not. Yeah, this NFC is not killer. I mean, you got Ayuk and Purcell, getting back out there. I think you're gonna get a lot from Rick. We'll see what you get from Ayuk. But hell, by January, the Niners getting out of playoffs, man, you don't know where these other teams are gonna be. So I mean, they're still really talented. So I think you work to try to get in those playoffs, get the best position you can get, and then see what happens and try to be going by then.
Jake, I appreciate the call, man. Thanks so much. I'm kind of with that, JD. I mean, it's interesting to think about if the Niners don't – I don't know why we would think they won't lose anybody else, but if they don't lose any more key players for the remainder of the season and they do get the ones back that we're anticipating will come back, being Brock, potentially Brandon Ayuk, who could have his practice window open as early as this week, maybe next week, and Ricky Pearsall, all those guys come back, how different does this team look on offense now? I mean, the defense is still a problem. You're still going to need that depth to get healthy, Bryce Huff and Eater Gross-Matos and whatnot. But you get those guys back, the offense, I mean, maybe it does open up more for Christian McCaffrey.
They're going to have to become a team that can be more dependent on their offense. And I think they may not have the talent to do it right now. But as we look ahead, we've spent the better part of the last 2 weeks saying it. And again, maybe they're ill-equipped to do it. But the belief is that they won't be ill-equipped to do it for the entire season once they get some of those guys back. And you're right, they could lose other players, but they're in it. They are in it. And next week, I don't even go as far as the Rams game, which obviously is big because it's a divisional game. And,
I'm week to week right now.
Win that one.
I'm day to day.
But get the Giants. I mean, just think about it in terms of if you get the Giants game and you're 6-3. You get the Giants game, you're 6-3 considering everything. That's the game to me that's almost the tipping point, because then you start to look at what's ahead after that. And, if you lose that one, lose to the Rams, and you're 5-5, maybe it feels much different. But to me, the schedule is set up, as imperfect as this roster is currently because of the injuries, the schedule is set up for them to rally and bounce back and go beat the Giants, who are going to be dealing with their own issues, coming off a couple of bad losses. Now they're 2-6. And they lost a guy who's been one of the more dynamic players in the entire NFL this year in Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah, Cam Scatterbo, a pretty gruesome injury today. Really, you feel for him. Kid out of Sacramento, and he looked like it was a broken ankle or dislocated, similar to that of what Fred was dealing with. So, dude, I mean, even this is how he's impacted that fan base. Did you see, or not just that fan base, but how highly he's thought of already? Did you see how the Eagles fans reacted to him? He got carted off the field. Eagles fans gave him a standing ovation. in Philadelphia.
That was unbelievable.
To a New York
I
Giant. I beside myself, and he even gave a wave as he left. I think he even understood, like, dude, this doesn't happen. People don't give you standing O's. I mean, they applaud oftentimes. People will applaud when a guy gets off the field. You're like, okay, good, he's all right. You don't want anything bad to happen to somebody. But to get a standing ovation as he's carted off is kind of crazy.
It's really, it feels unprecedented, especially for Philadelphia. And, of course, the old joke, they booed Santa Claus. But if you remember the ugly scene when Michael Irvin got hurt in Philadelphia, and Eagles fans cheered as he was laying on the ground with what proved to be a really significant injury.
Yeah, I think you said that old joke. No, they did boo Santa Claus. I think they pelted Santa Claus with snowballs.
They did do it, but it is kind of funny.
I think the joke you're thinking of is the phrase, Philly fans are so mean they would boo a blind kid in an Easter egg hunt, is the line they used to come with about Philly fans. That's how mean they are.
Oh.
Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you on a Sunday afternoon.
Let's talk about Kaepernick.
Niners fell 26-15. I like our guy, who was our last caller? There was James in Iowa. So anyway, just said we should call Bono. Yeah. Where's Steve DeBerg? Can we get DeBerg out here? We need somebody else.
Where's Jim Druckenmiller?
There we go. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come on back, we'll get to more of your calls. And I'm going to get JD's thoughts. How many wins is it going to take to get into the NFC playoff picture? Is it 10? Can you find 5 more of the next 9? 5 and 4 in the next 9 might be enough to get you in, specifically if you're beating teams in your division in any capacity. I'm talking mostly Seattle and the Rams. More on that in just a few minutes. The 49ers fall 26-15, only here on the Sports Leader.
Here's the snap to Jones, looking over the middle, lofts it into the end zone. George Kittle reaching back with one hand. 2 defenders on top of him. George Kittle celebrates National Tight End Day.
National Tight End Day finds George Kittle in the end zone for a touchdown. We'll make that our drive of the game today, sponsored by El Cerrito Honda. More than just a car dealership. We're family. That's your drive of the game. I actually think the drive of the game was the touchdown they scored, their second drive of the second half. That was their best drive of the day, their longest, 12 plays, 76 yards in the touchdown. Plus, they got the 2-point conversion. A big catch by Jawan Jennings down near the 1. You had Demarcus Robinson catches the 2-point conversion. I actually think that was a better, more sustained drive, but the 35-yard drive for the touchdown kept them in it right before the half and before they picked up their first interception in 14 games. Let's go out to Rick. Rick is in Hayward following a 49er loss, 26-15. It was a flat day all around. Rick, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, Adam.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, it was a flat day for sure. Yeah, I don't know why even Colin Kaepernick came up. I turned the radio on late. So
I don't know why it came up either. So it came up and I just made a throw because some guy called and was like, dude, some older fan called and said they should try to bring him
material.
Back. I don't know what was going on, and then I made a throwaway line and then it got brought up again. It's like a tinderbox, dude.
Oh, okay.
It's not of any significance.
Well, yeah. I have throwaway lines for Jeff Kemp, Jeff Garcia, and Nick Mullins, but I'm not going to throw them.
Right, we're not. Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. Here's my complaint about the game. I mean, the complaint is that we're undermanned. This team is totally undermanned, and it goes to the point that I think the salary structure in the NFL is crazy. When the Niners were really good, in the 80s, there was no salary cap. I think the cap was derived because of the 49ers and Eddie B
I think you're right.
paying his players too much, I mean, when you have Steve Young as a backup.
You just hold him forever, right, and not have to pay anybody. You can pay him whatever you want, yeah.
So look at the team right now. You have your top 2 defensive players who are probably your top 2 defensive players being played, that are out right now, and you can't have any quality backups because once you pay your guys and get to the cap, I mean, even though I know the cap is kind of fictional after
it's imaginary,
the beginning of the season. Yeah, it's you only have to get to the cap in March.
By that certain day, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the bottom line is you can't go out and you can't have 14 to 15 guys on defense making good money. You have basically 5 guys, 6 guys making really good money, and then you have average guys. It's kind of like the baseball, which I'll get back into later on a different time. But the point is, you just can't have enough guys that are good making money that are on this team, and right now they're all hurt. So you're going with backups, and backups.
Yeah.
And it's basically showing what the Niners gave up at what they have. Houston had drives, basically scoring drives, almost every drive they had.
Dude, every drive except the end of the first half when they had it's 25 seconds, they throw the pick, and then back-to-back at the end of the game where they were already up 2 scores and punted it just to kind of put the game out of reach. But you're right. I mean, it's basically every drive.
So your question is, are the Niners going to basically make the playoffs?
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know. I don't think they can. I mean, you look at Seattle. They have a better chance. They're playing really good football right now. You have the Rams. They're playing really good football. The schedule looks good for the 49ers, but Arizona only lost to us by 1 point.
Yeah.
So I don't know how anybody can be excited about this, thinking that they still have a chance, other than they want to do. I mean, I see why you guys are doing it. You don't want us to tune the Niners out, but the point is, I just don't know. I mean, we're 3-0 right now against the division, but hey, it only takes the Seattle or the Rams a couple of wins the Niners can't get in this easy schedule setup that they have left. And if the Rams are 1 game ahead of the 49ers just by winning more games, the Niners are out.
That's it. We're up against it, Rick. I do got to move here, but I'm with you in terms of what JD said, basically, saying, I don't know is the most real way to go about it. But JD said, I think they could win most of the games on their schedule. I think they could lose most of the games on their schedule. It's just that you don't know which team you're going to see. Are they going to be able to run the ball? Are they going to be able to create or generate any pressure? They've played defense well to a point this year, but they also didn't get off the field on third down today, and they've lost more and more players. To Rick's point, it's backups of backups now. And at some point, the reason guys are backups is because they're not as good as the starters. And if you don't have your starters, you don't have as good of a shot. So there was a lot of growth to be had, but I'm with you, JD, that just about every game kind of feels like a toss at this point.
It does, which means you've got a shot. That means you do have a shot. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to go make a bunch of huge moves at the trade deadline, because I don't think the 49ers are going to do that. Could they add somebody, a moderate pass rusher or somebody on the defensive line? I think that's possible. But they're not. This isn't baseball. This isn't the NBA. Like, you're not going to go get, like in baseball, 3, 4, 5 guys, right? You're not going to go get an outfielder and a second baseman and a reliever and a starter.
And you're not a playoff team if you have to get them all,
Yeah, exactly. And so, I think the Niners could get somebody on the D-line or a pass rusher. But we do see teams do that in baseball, right? We do see teams go out and make 3, 4 moves. In the NFL, it's more like 1 or 2 because those draft picks, and really 1 because those draft picks are so valuable, and typically you're trading draft picks, right? You're not trading actual player prospects that are already within your system. And in the NBA, obviously, it's less prevalent because there's fewer players. So, teams do look to make moves, but if it's not a superstar type player, how much of an impact can it truly make on a team for a stretch run? So the bottom line for me is, and I've said it, and you asked me before the break, it's 5 wins out of the final 9 games. If they can get 10. To that and get to 10, that gets you to 10. I think you need 10. Are they a lock to get 10? No. Could they get 10? Yes. To me, that's what makes the remainder of this season the most interesting, because if they can get to 10, considering all the adversity, I really do think it's a great, highly successful season, even if they go one and done and in a playoff and have to move on to 2026. That to me is a significantly better alternative, Copes, than just tapping out or saying, injuries got us again. We went 7-10. Nobody wants that.
Yeah, no, nobody wants that. It's not going to be good enough. It would also mean that after you started 5-2, that was an awful finish. But were they 3-0 to start the year? 3-0, and then the last week 4 to the Jags.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you started
3-0. Yep.
Start 3-0. If you were 5-2 and you finished 7-10, I mean, that's disastrous. That's 2-8 in your final 10 games. We got to a point at 5-2, and even at like 4-1, where I thought, hey, you gotta go to the playoffs now. After they beat the Rams on that Thursday night game, I thought you're good enough. Starting 5-1 or starting 4-1 and then 5-2. It's not acceptable, I don't think, to miss the playoffs at that point. We'll put a bow on this one, and we'll get out of here signing off when we come on back. Adam Copeland, John Dickinson with you. The Niners have fallen to 5-3, and everybody else in the West was idle. An enjoyable day off for the Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals, as the Niners, the only team in the West that play and they lose 26-15 to Houston. We'll sign off on the other side, only here on The Sports Leader.
got beat today. Credit to them. They kicked our ass, and we got to take it like men and come back, hopefully a little pissed off, and go to work and play better next week than we did this week.
I was 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan. Get back to work tomorrow. I mean, again, this is one I don't think you can flush. I think this one you got to take stuff from. As well as the young defense played last week, they did not have the same success today and lost 3 more players that could not finish the game. D. Winters went down with an injury, came back and then left and did not return. Okenyanu left. Sam O with an injury, did not return. And who was the other one? I'm missing somebody that did not return. Jordan Elliott left with an ankle and did not return either. So Kyle didn't seem to think that those were all like season-ending type injuries, but of significance in this game for sure and affected the depth. Niners fall 26-15. JD, as we sign off here, just some final thoughts on this game as we head into a week where we're going to pull this one apart before they take on Big Blue next Sunday.
Yeah, to me, it's turned all attention toward next week, and you definitely need to learn some things from this week. I'm not saying you completely flush it, but this team's got to come back with the competitive spirit that they had last week against the Falcons in what is a winnable game, albeit traveling 3,000 miles away, completely cross country for another one of the early 10 a.m. Pacific time body clock type starts. I saw a little bit of it on social media. People thinking, did that have something to do with maybe why the 49ers were sleepwalking a little bit? I didn't really get the sense that it did, Copes. But regardless, they played very well in New Orleans in a noon Central game about a month and a half ago. But they're going to have to be ready for it again. I mean, that's the one concern I would have just for next week. Not the 10 a.m. component, but the fact that you did come all the way down to the southeast, and you're going all the way back, and you're going all the way back again. That can tend to take a little bit of a physical toll, especially when you're playing early morning body clock time. It's a lot of back and forth, but other than that, very winnable game next week. Go get it.
Yeah, they're going to play another body clock game early next week. Sunday morning, same bat time, same bat channel. Pregame right here, 7 a.m., myself and JD for the Niners and the New York Giants. All right, we're going to sign off here from this Niner broadcast. We're going to have Sunday Night Football tonight right here on The Sports Leader. Stay tuned for that. We've still got some games in action right now in the afternoon slate, but it is a light slate today. You got Pittsburgh and Green Bay tonight. That should be a fun one. Aaron Rodgers against his former team. I got Pittsburgh in that one, by the way, JD. I like the Steelers in that game.
Yeah, I do too. The Packers haven't been great on the road, and what was it? There's as many teams playing right now that has had bye weeks this week. You got 6 playing right now, and you got 6 not playing at all.
Yeah, it just doesn't make much sense. And when they do all play, you get games at like 6 a.m. and you got games in London. You got 2 Monday nights. Just give me all my games on a big menu. I want to sit here and watch them all. We're going to sign off here after the Niners have lost to the Houston Texans. Thanks to everybody who was involved in our broadcast today. Larry Kruger, Matt Mayoko, of course, on the pregame. All the guys here at the studio doing all the cutting and getting you all the audio today. Anthony Garcia, our guy Chips McCarthy, Kyle Haar doing a great job running the game, and our senior producer Tim Webb of All Niner Broadcasts. I'll be back with you tomorrow for Dirty Work, 2 to 6. You got any schedules this week, JD?
Dubs OT tomorrow and Tuesday. It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
The Warriors are back at it. A home back-to-back, Grizzlies and Clippers the next 2. So I'll be out at Harmonic Brewing in Thrive City Monday night and Tuesday night, and also going to be in for a portion of the Papa Show with Papa and Silver for Papa on Tuesday as well. So looking forward to that. Everything good with Pop, but gonna be in for an hour or so on that show on Tuesday. So that's what's coming up in the immediate future for me.
There you go. So stay tuned for Warriors coverage with JD. I'll be back with you tomorrow with Derek Papa and Tim Webb for a little Dirty Work from 2 to 6, and then we'll be back with you next Sunday for Niner pregame ahead of the New York Giants at 7 a.m. right here on The Sports Leader. Until tomorrow at 6 a.m. for Murph and Marcus, signing off here for John Dickinson. I'm Adam Copeland. The 49ers have fallen to the Houston Texans 26-15. More to come only here on The Sports Leader.